Coming up on Network Africa, Ghana's health minister in hospital after testing positive for coronavirus. In the heat of the COVID-19 pandemic in Nigeria, the National Association of Resident Doctors begin an indefinite nationwide strike. Plus, leader of Sudanese militia, Janjaweed, denies committing war crimes in the Western Darfur region 20 years ago. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Layo Adegoke. We begin our coronavirus coverage in Ghana, where the health minister, Kwaku Agyeman-Manu, has been hospitalized after testing positive for coronavirus. President Nana Akufo-Addo, in a televised address, wished the 64-year-old a speedy recovery, saying he's in a stable condition. President Akufo-Addo described him as a hard-working minister who caught the virus in the line of duty. Meanwhile, the president has announced that wearing a face mask in public is now compulsory, and the police have been mandated to enforce the directive. Restrictions on religious gatherings have been eased, and schools will reopen for final year students on Monday. Border crossings still remain closed. The country's coronavirus case count has risen to nearly 12,000, with 54 deaths and about 4,000 recoveries. Daniel Dadier, Joy News TV correspondent, joins us now for more details. Hello, Daniel. Thank you for speaking to us.
Hi, Layo. Thanks for having me.
All right. Do give us an update on the health minister's status now. The president says he's in a stable condition.
Yeah, so as far as we know, the health minister is still stable. He's currently being held at one of the foremost treatment centers in the country, the University of Ghana Medical Center. Layo, a bit of background to this. We got some news over the weekend that the health minister had tested positive for COVID-19 and was receiving treatment at UGMC, as it's called. However, it was disputed by some journalists who are known to be closely associated with him on social media sometime during the weekend. Last night, though, President Akufo-Addo wished him well, as you heard. Unfortunately, apart from wishing Mr. Agyeman-Manu well, he also said that the mayor for Sekondi Takoradi, which is the capital of the Western region, the third largest city in the country, has passed away from a COVID-19 related death. It's a big blow to the fight against COVID-19 in the country, I must say, because Sekondi Takoradi was one of the cities that immediately started enforcing COVID-19 protocols in their markets when Ghana started recording cases. So that's a bit of background to that. We know for a fact that, as far as we know, Kwaku Agyeman-Manu is undergoing treatment and he's doing well.
All right, condolences to the family and also Ghana. Well, now face masks are being enforced for anyone who's in public. What's the level of compliance among citizens with this new directive?
I must say, Layo, that the level of compliance is really reflecting the social strata, because you go into you come to offices like our office here, people walking in and out are more often than not are wearing face masks. But you also go out in the street. I remember driving to work at dawn this morning and commenting to myself that there are actually very few people on the streets wearing face masks. And unfortunately, that is the story in some of the most crowded public places that we have here in Accra, where we have the largest number of cases in the country, and which is the capital city, of course, and other parts of the country which are very urbanized. So it's a very mixed reaction, I must say, to the no face mask, no entry directive that the president has declared.
All right, Daniel, just before I let you go, we know an election is scheduled to take place this year in December, but this pandemic has no doubt, disrupted a lot of campaign and election-related activities. What's the update on, many things that many people that would have loved to participate in this?
Lyle, I mean, when I read the question, I smiled because that question alone sort of opens a can of worms in the country. The country is currently in the middle of a raging debate led by the ruling party and the opposition party on whether or not the Electoral Commission should compile a new voters register. Now, the opposition party's main argument is that we can't have 17 million registered voters coming to queue once again to get new voter ID cards in terms of social distancing. The ruling party says you can't also disenfranchise anyone who has turned 18 and needs to register to vote anyway. So if people are going to come out and vote, you might as well come out and have a new voter register. This is one of the main activities that has become a bone of contention as far as elections in Ghana are concerned. It's currently the subject of a Supreme Court case. The Supreme Court is scheduled to rule on the 23rd of June, and then the register will be compiled on the 30th of June. Those are the major activities. Or one of our programs beyond the lockdown here on Joy News, we have the Director of Elections at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Strice, say that we often call the election an activity, but it's not an activity, it's a process. And so if we want to see December 7th, which is election day for Ghana, go well. And
seems like we've lost Daniel Dadzie. But
very polarized.
Daniel, having Daniel Dadzie there, Joy News TV correspondent, giving us the situation in Ghana. Well, amid the ongoing health crisis resulting from the COVID-19 pandemic, members of the National Association of Resident Doctors of Nigeria have commenced an indefinite nationwide strike over poor pay and a lack of personal protective equipment for health workers. The national president of NARD, Dr. Aliyu Sokomba, announced the commencement of the strike at a press conference in Abuja. It comes after their warning last week that the doctors were taking what they described as the painful decision following the inability of the government to meet their demands. All resident doctors, medical officers below the rank of principal medical officer, and house officers across all the federal and state hospitals in Nigeria are expected to join the action. Nigeria has recorded more than 15,000 cases of COVID-19 and more than 400 deaths.
The meeting noted the sorry state of the healthcare delivery system that is characterized by the perpetual unavailability of personal protective equipment for healthcare workers in our hospitals, with the attendant increase in risk of infection. NEC observed the insincerity of the appointees of the executive arm of government in paying the outstanding salary shortfall of 2014, 2015, 2016, under the guise of the so-called appeal of the National Industrial Court judgment. And at the end of the meeting, the NEC resolved to proceed on an indefinite nationwide strike action from today, the 15th of June 2020, by 12:01 a.m., with the exemption of our members attending to COVID-19 patients at designated COVID-19 treatment and isolation centers for the next 2 weeks, after which, if things remain the same, they shall also be co-opted to join the strike.
Since 2011, Libya has had no stable central authority. When the coronavirus pandemic struck the world, the country confirmed its first case in March. Now, a sudden surge of cases in a southern city has alarmed the citizens and caused a row over the repatriation of nationals stuck abroad, just as a new bout of warfare has forced thousands into crowded quarters.
The number of coronavirus cases has surged in Libya this month, with health authorities blaming the biggest outbreak in a southern city on the repatriation of nationals stranded abroad.
Before the return of repatriated citizens, we were getting through this crisis safely. If you remember, test results came back negative for a whole 7 to 8 days, even though we were receiving samples from all over Libya. However, the return of repatriated citizens was a turning point in the pandemic, and the spread of the pandemic in Sebha also played a part in the situation worsening.
The National Centre for Disease Control last week announced more than 90 new cases in the southern city of Sebha, after weeks with only a few dozen confirmed cases across the whole country. By Tuesday, Libya had confirmed 332 cases of COVID-19, of which 142 were in Sebha and the others mostly in the northwest.
From the time the disease was discovered in Sebha, people in the city hadn't followed preventive measures in place. Instead, they underestimated and belittled the problem. They kept markets open as well as gatherings, while not adhering to the curfew that was put in place.
Libyan and international health agencies have warned of the high risks of any wave of coronavirus cases in Libya, where years of chaos and war have undermined the health system. Prime Minister Fayez al-Sarraj, head of the internationally recognized Government of National Accord GNA in Tripoli, formed a committee on May 28 to investigate the spread of the coronavirus among people returning from abroad.
A former teacher's TV show is growing in popularity in Ethiopia as schools remain closed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Bruktawit Tigabu uses a giraffe sock puppet to educate kids in 7 Ethiopian dialects, aiming to reach 10 million children across the country.
A bright and inquisitive African animal is how its creator, Bruktawit Tigabu, describes the puppet Shehei, which means son in the Ethiopian language. The 38-year-old came up with the idea of an animated puppet show while teaching children in a primary school. She wanted to tackle the issue of illiteracy in Ethiopia.
In some regions and some situations, in fact, up to 50% of the children, going to school, for 2 years and 3 years, still unable to read a single sentence. So what does that mean? What does it say for the child? It says that the child starts doubting themselves. That is because of the failure of educators like me, and the parents and the whole system is failing the child. So that is not acceptable for me. So I wanted to find a way to reach and to change that.
The show is popular with the Eka family, who have been stuck in their Addis Ababa home since March. That is when Ethiopian authorities closed schools across the country. Shehei teaches the alphabet and tells stories. She also deals with sensitive issues such as domestic violence and the current global health crisis. While the kids are glued to the show, mom and dad also get to have a little break.
The program is very helpful, especially for mothers like me. It helps us get a break to do house chores, as they enjoy listening to their stories and learning from the television. It is very helpful for parents.
The show's creator, Bruktawit, decided in order to reach children across Ethiopia, they had to translate the show into all languages. A team of 120 language and educational specialists helped with the new formats.
The way we are doing it is using mass media, the TV and radio. And as you know, this is not safe environment for every day. It gives us energy, risking our life to come to work and making sure literally 240 episodes are coming out within 2 months so that we can reach up to 10 million children. That gives us the energy because we know that when the children get this content, it might be the only educational content they got for the day.
Bruktawit has won numerous international awards in recognition of her work. She now has big ambitions for expanding her show across the continent.
You're watching Network Africa on Channels Television. Still to come on the program. Coronavirus is not stopping Congolese fashion designer who goes virtual for her runway shows. Please stay with us. Welcome back to the program. Away from the coronavirus pandemic, state media in Morocco is reporting that King Mohammed VI has undergone successful heart surgery at the Royal Palace's clinic in Rabat. The state news agency MAP said the king suffered from arrhythmia, which was tackled using radio frequency treatment conducted on the 14th of June. The procedure is performed to treat patients who are experiencing problems with an abnormal heart. This surgery was crowned with complete success, MAP said, citing a report from the King's medical team of 5 doctors. The report added that the surgery managed to regulate the King's heartbeat, returning it to normal. This is the King's second treatment for heart problems. In February 2018, he underwent surgery in Paris after MAP reported arrhythmia or irregular heartbeat. Leader of a Sudanese militia which fought a war in the Western Darfur region 20 years ago has denied committing any war crimes. Ali Kushaib was speaking at his first appearance at the International Criminal Court in The Hague. He was a leader of the Janjaweed, a notorious pro-government militia which carried out atrocities against the civilian population. A warrant for his arrest was issued 13 years ago, listing 50 counts of war crimes and crimes against humanity, including murder, rape, and torture. He surrendered last week in the Central African Republic, where he'd been in hiding since February, when Sudan announced that it would hand over suspects wanted by the ICC. And as Nigeria celebrates 21 uninterrupted years of democracy, many admit, just like every other country, the journey is still work in progress. Nigeria played a prominent role in supporting South Africa's journey to multiracial democracy. And in this report, our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia, looks at both countries' individual democratic journeys and what they could be achieving together.
Nigeria prides itself with the prominent role it played crossing regional boundaries to support South Africa's anti-apartheid struggle in many ways. Even through music, many Nigerian musicians added their voices to the anti-apartheid struggle. This monument here captures the story of the 1976 youth uprising in Soweto, which inspired the global hit Fire in Soweto by Nigerian great, the late Sonny Okosins.
The head of state then in Nigeria, after the murder of Mohammed Murtala, was General Olusegun Obasanjo. Because he was actually, if I may use the word naughty in brackets, because he was sent as one of the eminent persons group here. But he started indulging in acts of defiance, sitting on white benches and so on, courting them to arrest him. Yes.
Post-apartheid, both countries have remained sister nations with a revitalized binational commission, despite visible rivalry in global politics and even sports. There's been tension on several occasions too, like the hanging of author and environmental activist Ken Saro-Wiwa and 8 others, as well as repeated xenophobic incidents. While South Africa began its multiracial constitutional democracy in 1994, Nigeria began its own uninterrupted journey in 1999, both democracies every bit work in progress.
There is a discussion about better coordination around issues of ethics, competition, and things like that, because the two countries need to cooperate better.
Professor of Policy and Public Sector Economics of Fort Hare University, Edwin Ijoma, has served in several advisory bodies for 3 South African presidents.
One of the issues that are no longer fashionable is
military
taking over government by the military coup. It's no longer happening. Nigeria has been on top many years in the 60s and 70s and so on. That is one advantage. Another thing Nigeria may not be doing well is how does the representatives of government, whether in the states, at the national level, how do they have direct communication with their constituencies?
Okay, let's now look at democracy and democratic institutions. What areas do you think both countries can borrow a leaf or learn something from each other in terms of democracy and democratic processes?
South Africa has a good number of institutions that support their democratic process. Whether you're talking of the Electoral Commission, or you're talking of the Public Protector, the independence of the judiciary, Chapter 9 institutions, and so on and so forth. They have a good number of institutions, which unfortunately Nigeria don't have. Though Nigeria has, but the level to which those institutions
are independent
or are respected is another cause for the challenge Nigeria might be facing. And it will be necessary for Nigeria to begin to work with other African countries. Wherever they have a better advantage, you bring them in to assist. What you want to achieve is credibility of government, and that the population and citizens respect legitimize anybody that is in elected offices. Those are the issues that Nigeria can borrow a leaf from South Africa.
There's no doubt that a more collaborative relationship between Nigeria and South Africa will be more beneficial, not just to both countries, but the African continent. So to do away with the sometimes divisive rivalry between both countries on several fronts, and probably forge ties as solid as or close to the special relationship between the UK and the US, what kinds of conversations should both countries be having with each other at this point? From Johannesburg, South Africa, Betty Dibia, Channels Television News.
Fashion brands have had to cancel shows because of the COVID-19 pandemic. However, that is not stopping US-based Congolese designer Anifa Mwemba and her runway shows. She's looking at innovative ways to display her latest collections, which she debuted last month via 3D renderings on Instagram Live, a groundbreaking display of what is possible in the fashion world's new normal. Mwemba says she was using 3D animation months before the pandemic to design her PCs and to do remote photo shoots. But the virtual show required more work, including transforming each garment into a 3D image and using the body of an avatar to tailor the item with precise measurements. Well, that is just fascinating. And that's it on the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Layo Adegoke.